Hi everyone, welcome to Budapest. So this is Anita, and I hope lots of you are joining me today. We're going to spend 1 hour together, so if you're here, just let me know and ask your questions, if you have any. Before I start with the history, let me just tell you about the virus right now in Hungary, Budapest. We have about 3,000 infected all over the country, about 300 deceased, but the virus is getting to go slower from one place to the other. The whole breakout came in the middle of March, and everyone were just going for a voluntary staying home and working at home. And from the beginning of April, the government also said we should stay home and keep getting in the quarantine. And now this is the time from Monday on to ease up this whole restriction. And apart from Budapest, outside the country, basically everybody can go back to the life before we had. And Budapest still stays with the restrictions. But more and more people tend to be fed up with this quarantine. It's very bad to be staying at home and only going to the shops. And nice to meet you too. And finally, we are really glad that we will be back to life. It's also going to be better for the economy too. I can see that there's only one person yet. So I will start with a really brief historical overview of Hungary, just to make sure you get the whole picture about the Hungarian way of life now, why we are like this, and what are the reasons why we are acting sometimes weird. And if any of you have been here before, you can also just wave to me and say something. I'm really eager for answering your questions. So the history of Hungary goes back to the 9th century. There were 7 Hungarian nomadic tribes coming to the Carpathian Basin from somewhere Asia. We are actually a nation like the Mongolians were, although I do not really look like an Asian person. It's because of our history, of our really hard past. When the 7 tribes were migrating, they were searching for a land to take. And they wanted to settle down, but they were still pagan people, but they still wanted to unify their nation. And that was the time for the blood pact. Do you know what a blood pact is? Have you heard about it? I guess you haven't. All the 7 tribe leaders got together. They cut one of their fingers and they poured some, or they dropped some blood in a cup of wine, and each of them took a sip. This was only one time in our history. Nowadays we are a pagan, we are a baptized nation, and this whole baptizing section came with our first king in the year 1000. His name was Saint Stephen. Saint Stephen was in charge of baptizing the whole country. The Pope sent a bishop for him to help. His name was Gellért, but the very first people did not want to be Christianized, so they took Gellért, whom was taken to the top of the Gellért hill. Later I will show you. And they put him into a cage and they were dropping him down to fall to the river Danube we have. It was a really cruel act, but after that we were ordered to take Christianity. Every 7th city had to build a church, and finally we got to this part. Now we hop a little bit in time. We get to the 13th century when we had King Matthias on the throne. King Matthias was a really great king. He was getting married with a very nice lady from Italy. Hi David, my friend. And basically he was making whole country to prosper. We got lots of new spices. We were in contact with some Italian cuisine section things, and when he died, unfortunately, the Turkish nation came to the country. The Turks always wanted to capture the Carpathian Basin, but we were still here. We were a really strong country. But with the Turks, our strength basically got lost, unfortunately, and we made very bad choices throughout history. The Turks came here, invaded Hungary, and they stayed here just for a tiny time, for 150 years, and the country was torn into three parts. We had Transylvania in the east, the Turks were in the middle, and in the west we were just coping with the Habsburgs or with the Austrians. And finally the Austrians decided to help us get liberated from the Turkish Empire. And after this 150 years, we basically had the chance to chase away the Turks. But with that, the Austrians also stayed, and we became the part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Kingdom. And the first part of it was quite strict, but after we had a revolution in 1848, the Austrians realized that basically we have to have some freedom just to make sure that we live together peacefully. And that was a time when we got lots and lots of funds from the Austrians. Most of Budapest and lots of parts of the country were built in the Austro-Hungarian era, and we had a very, very prosperous age. We had a grand celebration in 1896. It was the 1,000 years memory for land taking, which was in 896. And two of the buildings I will show you today have also a memory for 96 or 896. One is the Parliament and the other one is the Basilica. I will show you later. When the Austrians were still kind of occupying us, the First World War era came. You know, we had no choice in joining the First World War or not. We got together, hi Michelle, we got together for the First World War, and unfortunately it was not the winning side. And with the end of the First World War, 1/3 of the country was chopped down, and we gave territories to our surrounding countries nowadays, ending about 3.5 million people to get to be minorities in the new lands. And this was a very, very bad happening in our history, and we wanted to get those lost lands back. So the Second World War came, and the Nazis said they help us gain these lands back, which happened. But with the end of the Second World War, we basically got back to the 1918 map, basically. And when the Nazis got here, they also had a chance to occupy us. And with the Second World War, of course, we had the terrible times coming for the Jews and other minorities. And with the end of the Second World War, the Soviets came to kind of liberate Hungary. It was a liberation and also an occupation. So we spent about 40-something years in communism. Communism was a very interesting part of our history. It can be also divided into two sections. The first part, the 50s, and the first part of the 60s were the very harsh times, really dark side of communism. We had show trials, we didn't have food in the stores, and all bad things happened. So we also had an uprising. I think you have heard about the uprising of 1956, and I'd like to also show you some memories of it. I'm next to the Parliament, and you see these balls on the walls. These are bullets of the 56 revolution shooting that we erected. We really wanted to keep a memory for the revolution. And the result of this revolution was basically easing up the whole communist history of Hungary. We had the gulyás communism. Gulyás is soup, and it is rich in veggies, in meat, in sour cream, and not sour cream, sorry, but in lots of ingredients. And it meant that we could travel much better than the other nations, but it was a really bloody revolution for us. The Soviets came here with tanks, and the soldiers shot lots of civilians and lots of other Hungarian soldiers too. But with 1990, we got finally liberated. We had the first parliamentary elections, and basically we are a free country since then. We are part of the European Union now, and we are members of the NATO, and we are just the middle of the Carpathian Basin, a wonderful city and a wonderful country with lots of very nice people. And although politics have quite interesting stories getting to the surface, basically, I have one thing to advise to you. Do not really ask Hungarians about politics, because they would start swearing and they would go just really sad, and they were just complaining. If you are here, just ask me, because I can stop swearing and complaining. But now how about moving on to the Parliament building? How about that? So the Parliament is right in front of me. I'll show it to you. It was built in the 19th century too, finished in 1902. Before the Parliament building was built, we had some gatherings for the MPs, but we didn't have any buildings that are just for the Parliament. So they decided to actually have a contest for architects, and 19 plans were getting together, and they really liked the plans that they could not really decide. They didn't only build one Parliament, but two of the other buildings too. I'll show it to you in a moment. Oh, actually, it's a really sunny afternoon. I woke up for a really heavy rain, so I'm really happy that you can see the city in daylight and sunshine. So the second and the third winning plans are here. This was the plan for the Parliament, winning the second place, Ethnographical Museum. Now it's empty, it's under reconstruction. And this one, where we have the bullet holes for the Revolution 1956, was winning actually the third place in this contest. But let's get back to the Parliament building. I just got closer to it. The Parliament was built from only Hungarian material. That was the rule. But inside we have some marble that we wanted to use to decorate the building. Most of the marble is fake marble, because we don't have any marble mines. There are only 6 exceptions. 6 marble columns were given to us by the Swedish king, so that's the only real marble we have inside. As you can see, I think, we have lots of spirals, lots of neo-Gothic elements on it, and it's highly decorated. Inside of it, it's even much more pretty, or even prettier. We used 40 kilograms of gold to decorate the inside. Hi, Justin. I should be in California too. So 40 kilograms of gold, and it's painted really rich. Now it's in reconstruction, because we have some signs about the Hungarian cities, and that is what is getting to be renovated and added. Inside of it, we have the Hungarian Holy Crown. The Holy Crown was given to Saint Stephen when he was reigning, and basically it got outside the country when the Second World War came. And hi, Italy. And basically Nixon gave back this Hungarian Holy Crown, and there's also a legend. There's a cross on top of the Holy Crown, and it got back to us with this cross bending a little bit. They say that must have been a miracle, but I'm sure it was just the crate that making it harm. So they have the Holy Crown with the bended cross on top. What else? Oh yeah, we have about 20 kilometers of staircases inside, and the cupola that you can see now is 96 meters high inside. 96 meters, land taking was 896, and the millennial celebrations was 1896, So this is how we basically wanted to remember the history. Unfortunately, we wanted to make this to be finished by the millennial celebrations 1896, but it was officially finished for 1902. And unfortunately, the architect died 5 weeks before the Parliament was finished. So it was a very sad situation, but I'm sure he would love it. It's a really beautiful building. Now I'm going closer a little bit to the Danube, because I really want to show it to you. The sun is wonderful. The Parliament building is now giving home for the parties. Oh, let me tell you a little bit about the parties too. In the previous 2 elections, 2/3 of the votes went for the party that is now in the power. It's called Fidesz, headed by Viktor Orbán. I think you have heard about Viktor Orbán because the media is really loud because of him. He had some problems with the EU too, and he's pretty much criticized by other countries, but you have to cope with him now. So getting to the Danube, you have to know about the Danube. Can you see this horseman? Okay. So talking about the Danube, it's the longest river we have in Hungary. It's flowing through 4 countries, several countries and 4 capitals, from the north, which is towards the Parliament, to the south. And basically, it's we are able to go down on it by boat all the way in Hungary, and basically it's also used for traffic, for shipping goods. Nowadays, it's quite empty. Not so many people are traveling. It's restricted still, although Wizz starts some of his fares in a few days, as I heard. But now everything is silent. It's called the Blue Danube. The Danube has 9 bridges all over it. It's also part of the UNESCO World Heritage, so we cannot change the 2 sides of the cities, and that's how we can have the wonderful inner city. And now we are getting to the Margaret Bridge, one of my favorite bridges. That yellow bridge, I hope you can see. It was designed by the Eiffel company that designed the Eiffel Tower, and they say it was designed for this, like the Eiffel Tower actually. They also say that now maybe you cannot see it, but when you see the bridge and the reflection of it in the water, that is kind of similar to the building itself in Paris. So now the plan is to go along the riverside. The sun is shining for me, so I cannot really see the phone, but I'm fine. You also have to make sure that you wait for the green sign. You shouldn't go jaywalking because we are crazy drivers, so am I. So you have to believe me. And our next stop is going to be the shoes. The shoes are the memorial for the Jewish people who were massacred in this part of Budapest. And now you can also see the Parliament. And later I will tell you the story. Okay, let me get a green. And now in the meantime you can also see part of the castle district, the Matthias Church, the Fisherman's Bastion. If you have been here, I'm sure you recognize it. And yeah, Budapest used to be 3 separate cities before the 19th century. We got unified in 1873 there were 3 cities called Pest, Buda, and Óbuda. Óbuda means Old Buda. It's in the north behind me, and we merged them together because they said it would make a great city if they got unified, and they did a great decision, I guess. On the other side, you see the Matthias Church. It has wonderful tiles. If you Google for it, you will be amazed. It was just renovated in a few years back, and it was also used by the Turks as minaret, so they made all the frescoes disappear. But when the Turks left, we renovated it. All the kings added a new part to this church, so it became wonderful. It's a mixture of different architectural styles. And the Fisherman's Bastion, that white building in front of the church, was not really serving as a bastion. It's just the name that it got. It has 7 towers, and they said Walt Disney was inspired by the towers, and that's what you can see when the movie starts. It's a very fantastic building, although it was also bombed down in the Second World War, so as the bridges were. We had a very bad siege in the Second World War, and all the bridges were bombed down, so that the Soviets coming from the Pest side, where we are right now, would have a worse chance to get to the Buda side. And when finally they got to the Buda side, they unfortunately got over the buildings, and they did quite big mess inside of these buildings. I hope you can see a little bit in the distance. Later I will show you closer the Budapest castle, the castle of the city. It was used by various kings from the 12th century, 13th century, and now one of the buildings, the white building you may see, so the white building to the right of the castle is used by the president of Hungary. Now we get to the shoes. 60 pairs of bronze shoes. The story goes back to the Second World War time. You have to know that the Nazis were here, but they... hey Orlando, hey Heath. So the Nazis were here, and they didn't start deporting the Hungarian Jewish people and minorities till the final months. And we only had 6 months with the deportation, with the ghetto. And there were lots of Jewish people hiding, actually, in a neighborhood. And when the Nazis found out that they were hidden here, lots of Jews were taken to this point. Lots of them were tied together with a rope. One of them was shot in the head, and they just fell in the river. It was a very harsh time. It was very cold. It was winter, so they got just frozen while getting to the river. And it's just a few decades that we have these shoes. They had to leave everything here on the shore. So I think it's a magical way to remember all these lost people. But I do not want to make you sad. I just would like to show you some buildings that we have in the downtown. These buildings were also built in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Habsburgs got us lots of money for that. Of course, we have some more modern buildings. There's one in the middle here. Yeah, I don't think I should tell you anything about that monster. We had lots of these monsters built in the communist history, in the communist times. Some of them are restored to the point they used to be, but not all of them have the chance to get back to the previous glory. So we are getting closer to the Castle District 2. Unfortunately, I won't have time to go to the other side now, but maybe, if you want, we can talk to Christian and Justin, and we can have another walking tour if you like this one. Oh, yeah, and thank you very much, Christian, for inviting me. It was a great pleasure for me to join the other guides and show you around Budapest. Hi, Melissa. Okay, so you see the chain bridge too in front of me, or in front of you, and behind that is the Gellért Hill. The Gellért Hill is the hill from where this bishop was thrown down, and the chain bridge is one of the most important monuments we have. The chain bridge was also reconstructed after the Second World War, but it was first constructed in the 19th century. There was a British architect constructing this bridge, and he fell in love with the city so much that the other side has a square named after him. It's called Clark Adam Tér, or Adam Clark Square. He was the architect, the British, and there was also a Scottish engineer. The bridge itself was basically built on the bridge in, I forgot the name, the bridge in Marlow, near London. So if you travel to London Marlow, you can see something similar, but in a smaller size. The bridge itself is called Chain Bridge, or the full name is Széchenyi István Chain Bridge, or Széchenyi Chain Bridge. Széchenyi was a great nobleman I already told you about in one of the stories. He was a nobleman introducing casinos to Budapest and to Hungary. He was great. He has a great honor in keeping the Hungarian language safe, although he spoke Latin and German. And he was giving one of his yearly income for constructing the bridge, basically. The chain bridge has the original section still standing. The one in the middle, you can see the pillars. The other ones are just reconstructed parts. We are also facing a reconstruction era, hopefully in a few months by now. And why chain bridge? Maybe you cannot see from here, but you can Google it. The pieces that it's made of are like big chains, big bike chains, and that is the reason, basically. There's also a story connected to the lions of the bridge. Soon I'm going to get closer to the lions too, but still you can see the castle of Buddha. Buddha has nothing to do with the goddess Buddha, but it means water in Slavic languages. That's where the name is coming from. Thank you, Anna. I hope I pronounced your name well. So there are 2 lions on the Pest side and 2 lions on the other side, just keeping an eye on the traffic. And there's also a story connected to the lions. When the sculptor finished the lions, he said that the lions are perfect, so if you find any mistakes on the lions, I will commit suicide. And there was a boy saying that the lions don't have tongues. I can't see the tongues. And according to one part of the story, he did jump into the river, but actually he didn't. He took the boy to the zoo and he showed the lions resting, and that's when you cannot see their tongues because they pull them back. This was actually a previous stand of a bridge that was also burned down. You also see the tunnel and some bikers. Yeah, today is a day when lots of people are getting to the fresh air, trying to get a walk. Oh yeah, nice. Okay. So we'll need some time to see the lions, but later I will get back to them. I had to just cross the street, and then I'll show you this wonderful building from a bit closer, trying not to get killed. See. Okay. Sorry for the shaking. So this wonderful building is called Magyar Tudományos Akadémia. what does this mean? Hungarian Academy of Science. And if the tram is passing, I can also cross the street. Okay. So this is the place where the most intellectual people are working, who are still living in the country. Why is that so? Yeah, now you get the clue. So, brain drain is in the world. We have lots of intelligent people who are now in the US, maybe with you, or in other countries and cities, because they are paid very, very well. The income here, the average income is quite low, unfortunately, in Hungary. And this crisis did not give us a very good option either. So let us talk a little bit about the Hungarian language. Is there any word you want to hear in Hungarian? Okay, Hungarian language. What is it like, or where is it from? You know, we are from Asia. Hello, Bunny. We are from Asia, and we kept we took our language from Asia too. We are belonging to the Finnish-Ugric language group, so we have still something in common with the Finnish and Estonian languages, but we do not understand each other. Of course, we have Turkish influences, and we still have lots of loan words from it, and from other languages too, from the English language, from the German language, from Latin too. So Hungarian language is really mixed, but if you watch Star Wars and you listen to Yoda, that's how we are speaking actually, or talking. Hi Gregory, welcome to the walk too. So anyone has any words I would need to say in Hungarian? Little language lesson. We do lots of things upside down. When you go to a shop and you say hi, we say hello. When you leave, we say szia. Or it can be mixed. Hello is szia, szia is hello. So usually when Americans are here in Hungary, they are sometimes confused. What the hell are we talking about? How is thanks? It's called köszi. What is, for example, cheers? It says egészségedre. It's a bit complicated word. If you want to shorten it down, it's eks. So when you clean your glasses, you say eks. Thank you is köszönöm. Or shorter way is köszi. Okay, köszönöm or köszi. I'd like to also tell you about a very long word. I'm sure you will laugh at it. It's called el kell káposztásítottalanítottátok. It sounds crazy, but it says, or it's basically described as you go to a garden, you take all the cabbages, so the garden is out of cabbages. Really bad, I know, but this language has 40 letters, out of which there are 14 vowels. We have accents, we have dots on the vowels, which make lots of words to be different if you use an accent or not. Any other words? Okay, famous Hungarians. Why are we so talented, I would say, or I would ask? They also say that the language would be one of the reasons. What should I say 3 times fast? Not this word, not this word. So the Hungarian language is one of the 5 most difficult languages of the world. They say, and they also say, that this is why we are so intelligent and we are so talented in maths, or we have lots of people moving to the US. Do you know any Hungarians? Do you know the Rubik's Cube? The magic cube was invented by a Hungarian. Yeah, me too. The magic cube was invented by a Hungarian. He is actually living in the Castle District. Now, actually, I'm walking towards the Basilica to show you. And now, if you are good enough, you can see one of the lions at the end of the bridge, right in the middle, next to this allegorical figure. So, famous Hungarians, Zsa Gabor. I'm sure you know her. Actually, we say she's the best housekeeper on earth. She had 9 divorces and she always kept the houses. Haha, very bad joke, I know. Sorry about that. But we also have the person starring the first Tarzan. He was a swimmer actually, but as he had a nice body, they made him to be the first Tarzan on screen. Or if you know Dracula, Dracula was from Transylvania, the person itself, but at that time Transylvania was belonging to Hungary. Okay, now I switch back to my face. We have mathematicians, physicians, and lots of other great people that even live here or left Hungary, but we consider them to be Hungarians. We are really proud of them. Later you can also look up if you wish to, or you can come to Budapest and I can tell you about more Hungarians. Can you tell me what time is this? Is it half of the tour or something? I don't know any of the hours. So, Art Nouveau architecture. Oops. The city itself is full of architectural figures and beautiful architectural monuments. This is the Four Seasons I'm showing you. Four Seasons is a wonderful building. Thanks, Christian. Art Nouveau was present in the 19th century. It is very beautiful. It was renovated after the Second World War. It has a wonderful view to see the riverside. The suit itself, where Will Smith and other stars were staying when they shot movies here, are just facing towards the bridge. Now you cannot see it because it's wonderful, but this Art Nouveau architecture, you see some scarabäus bugs, but Hungarian Art Nouveau architecture is a bit different from the other architectural styles because we have lots of in common with the Hungarian folk art. We really like using floral motifs too, and I'd like to show you the peacocks on this building. Just a moment. It's a bit dark, but you can see. Okay, so we have the peacocks, a wonderful piece of art, really nice. But next to this beauty, we have a beast. Nice, right? Architecture for communism. We had, the bombings in the Second World War, and lots of gaps were left from after the Second World War. And in lots of the cases, they filled up these gaps with these buildings. It was really easy to build these kinds of monsters because we had pre-made parts of this building, just patch them up. And now there's, I think this is a hotel, but lots of people live in these or buildings like this. These buildings, oh, this is a better example. These buildings are really hot in summer and really cold in winter. The windows are really bad. If you just close your window and the wind is still blowing inside, and the walls are paper thin. So you do not need to have a TV or a radio. You just entertain yourself by your neighbors, maybe arguing, watching soap opera, or making up after a big fight. And that's why we have these air conditioning systems. Really bad and not really beautiful, but still Hungarian. And now you can already see the Basilica. Do you have any questions in the meantime? The Basilica is also a wonderful building. The cupola itself is also 96 meters high. Do you remember what was 96? 1896? 896? yeah, you know, land taking and the grand celebration for that, for the 1,000 years annual. And this is a very nice section of the city because no cars allowed, and that's how lots of travelers can come and have a walk and take a stroll. And we also have some sculptures. I'd like to show you a musician in a moment. Franz Liszt. Do you know Franz Liszt? I'm sure you do. We have quite a few memorials, statues for Franz Liszt. He was this wonderful person. What do I like living in Hungary? Well, this is my home and this is the CU. Well, I love living in Budapest because everything is close by. I loved the travelers when I was still an active tour guide. Nowadays I'm not in guiding that much anymore, but still love it. And I love architecture. I like the cuisine we have. I'd like to also tell you a little bit about the cuisine too at the next stop. And basically I love the fact that I'm free and I can go wherever I want to. The downtown is very small, so you can walk in like, I just got here from the Parliament, you know, in like 10 minutes without talking. Favorite place to relax in Budapest? I think you can guess it. I showed you a bathhouse, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. The bathhouse have this magical water, and just by walking also or taking a biking ride, that's also a wonderful time to relax. Okay, so the city park would be great. The castle district is also wonderful. Maybe next time I can show you also only the castle district. But when we get closer to the Basilica, I will also show that to you. And we're going closer to a police officer. A statue. Hands up if you know him. Christian, I'm sure you know the police officer. You have seen him a few times already. Oh, let me just go a bit faster. Okay, so this part is the very downtown, actually the posh area. And there's a police officer watching everything. Just meet him. He's Károly or Karl. He was a police officer in the 19th century when the Austro-Hungarian Empire was here. He's also guarding the Costa Cafe. And you can see that his belly is shiny. You have to rub the belly. Now I won't rub it because of the disease, but you have to rub his belly to make sure that you'll find the best Hungarian food in the city. Hungarian food. Have you tried any Hungarian food? Tram system. Yeah, pretty good. I think there should be even more trams, but good to use. Good to use them. So Hungarian cuisine. We love our stomachs. We love eating. We like sweet, greasy, or very seasoned foods. We eat lots of pork meat because of the Turkish times, Turkish era, you know, they didn't touch the pigs, so we had only the pigs to grow, and they took all the other animals away. Of course, these days we have modernizing concept for eating, so we maybe change lard for sunflower oil, or we do not eat so salty or sweet, or we just omit some meat, but we still like eating. So in most of the cases you will find not so skinny people. Some typical Hungarian fare. Fare for what? I'm sorry. Amber. In the meantime, you tell me about your question. Let me just show you the St. Stephen's Basilica. St. Stephen's Basilica is named after the first king of Hungary, St. Stephen. He was reigning in the year 1000, and when it was built, it was given Hungarian donations as materials, and that ended in basically collapsing the dome of it when it was still in construction Fortunately, no one was hurt, but we had to restart the construction again. It's basically not a basilica, it's just the name that we have for it, because the interior of it does not match with the basilica style. But when there was a pope here, he said, "Oh, what a wonderful basilica, and you know, who are we to argue with the pope?" So it sticked to this building. There's also a quotation from the Bible, "Ego sum via veritas vita." It means, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." These are Jesus Christ's words themselves, and I will answer your question in a moment. Jesus is all over, inside and outside, but still St. Stephen has a very important role. I'll show it to you a bit closer. Look at the main building in the middle, and I hope you'll see that person, that figure. That is St. Stephen. If you come to Budapest or Hungary, you will also find St. Stephen's figure with the holy crown on his head and the double cross, which means that he was the head of the church and the head of the state. The inside of the basilica is also holding St. Stephen's right fist, mummified right fist. Why is that so? When they were, there was actually a bump here before the St. Stephen's Basilica was constructed, and there were lots of floods. St. Stephen was buried underneath this bump, and his coffin was surrounded by water lots of times. And actually, when they opened up the coffin, first they thought that it's a miracle that his hand was mummified, but it's pure physics, because the water made the air trapped in the coffin, and that's what made his hand mummified, as he was laying with his right hand on the very top, and that's the only section that got mummified. And lots of Hungarian minorities wanted to take or wanted to get a part of St. Stephen's hand, so the pinky was going to an Australian community, and there's also a part in Ukraine, for example. So maybe you can do the puzzle and get all the parts of St. Stephen's hand. Is religion important for us? With this virus, actually there are online church ceremonies, which I think is a wonderful thing. I would say, communism did not really do good things with Hungarian religion, because those who were religious, they did not believe in the system, so they were the enemies of the state. And that's why lots of people lost religion. And these days, maybe more people are getting back to be religious. We have several religious minorities too, but Roman Catholicism is the biggest branch, but other ones are also in here. This is the area I'm at, and there's also another monster here from communism. They say that they just built this nice building just to take a revenge for the basilica, because the view is not so nice with this. I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the chance yet to reconstruct this building, but the other ones are reconstructed in the original way. Okay. As you can see, there aren't so many people here. Some people are biking, some people are walking. I should be wearing a mask as well, but you wouldn't be able to understand me, so I just put it in my bag. The Eucharistic Congress is going to be, or was planning to be held this September. That's what this sign is saying. We'll see if it can become true. You can also go to the tower, to this rooftop when the disease is over, and you hear the bells chiming. So if you want to get another photo shoot about the city, you can also do that from there. Now you can see this quotation better, and I think you can also see St. Stephen at the top of the main entrance. Okay, any more questions? No questions yet. Okay, I think soon we will get to the end of this trip. I'll get to the Deák Square, Elizabeth Square too, and I'll show you the very inner section of the city, because we are just very centrally downtown area. Education system. So the first step is kindergarten, and you go to school around the age of 6, and then we have 8 grades, then 4 more grades, and then we have the higher education. Nowadays we have free of charge seats at the universities, but sometimes they make you, either you are a good student, you have language certificates, you have great grades, or if you don't want to pay and you get this chance, they make you sign a document that you won't leave the country. You will work here for a certain amount of years, so that you don't have to pay the loan back in money, but with your taxes by working here. Okay, I think 10 more minutes and then we are done. But we have a very strong educational system, actually. Lots of foreign people are learning at Hungarian universities, and they make great graduation courses. Lots of hospitals get also Hungarian workforce abroad, because if you learn to be a dentist or surgeon, then you definitely get the chance to get a job anywhere else in the world. The pandemic, the market halls are open, and we also have a restriction that people above the age of 65, pensioners, can only go between 9 till noon to shop at the shops, the market halls, and after that and before that, so from 6 till 9, people under the age of 65 can go shopping. We got used to it quite well. Our school's closed now, yes. We are going to have the exams from the 4th of May, and the students can decide by themselves if they want to take this graduation course or not. Most of the students did not withdraw from the exams, but they still have the chance. They would postpone the graduation with 1 year if they choose not to go, if they are afraid, or just simply they don't want to go to the exams. That's another monument we have, quite fresh. Yeah, healthcare system. Oh, very good question. Healthcare system usually, without the pandemic, is, I hope nobody will take it bad, is a catastrophe, unfortunately. Lots of doctors left the country in the past few decades. But with the COVID situation, we got lots of people kicked out of the hospitals, and they are preparing for the newcomers to get cured, basically. Let me show you this pool. Underneath this pool, there is actually a club. You see the windows inside. You can see the water from the inside of this club, and you can feel yourself like a little fish dancing on a dance floor. It's called gödör, it means ditch, because there was a huge ditch in here and they wanted to use it in a better way. So this is where we are, the small boulevard or the small ring road. We have a bigger ring road too, We have ring roads like Paris has, and we also have 23 districts of Budapest, and it's also circular like Paris is. The Buda Castle district is district number 1, so that's the first one to start with. Okay, last questions, and then I'm afraid we need to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this trip. I really did. To tell you the truth, I was pretty shaking and I was excited till I got to start this live. But finally, I just had a great time with you. And I hope you did too. And you were able to learn some new things, new stuff. So I say we should finish this with a nice building to be seen. The Ankert or Anker. It used to be a banker's building. The rooftop has a loft, which is the most expensive, or one of the most expensive lofts of the whole city, but it has a grand view to the very downtown. So, thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. It was a lightening up for me for this day, and it was very good to walk with you, although you were sitting on your couch, I guess. I hope you liked the stories, the jokes. If you have any questions, you can still find me in the event. And thank you very much for the donations I got in the meantime. If you still want to donate, then you can use my PayPal. I will also share it with the company too. So take care, and I wish you all the best. And I really hope that we are going to meet maybe in the next few months. So take care and find me with your questions. Have a good day.